So you want to build a product, and I get you because I have built products. I've built products that have sold. I've built products that haven't sold. I've built products that have killed me in ways that I didn't expect. So this video is all about the one question I asked myself that probably could have changed the way I thought about things and really impacted the type of products I decided to create before I spent years building them. So that's what this video is about, and that's where you're going to get this one question that I wish I'd known to really help me with the choice that I was making at the time. Let's get started. Okay, to really understand this question, you also need to understand the types of products I've created, because I can guarantee you, if you've heard about a type of products, I've probably tried it. Let's go with the first thing I did, which is I went all in on memberships, subscriptions, understanding that reoccurring revenue was really important to a business than a one-off sale, right? Okay, understood that. And now recognizing that that is a pricing model, not a way to base a product. But nonetheless, I went down that line and I started with memberships. I had a grief membership that actually had a couple of people. It was really like, eventually I had to shut it. It wasn't very long because I realized that I had to constantly create, engage, really put myself out there. And for those of you that work in grief and can do that, I seriously commend you. It was not a model that I could sustain because I recognized that it drew a lot from me emotionally that I couldn't maintain, basically. So I ended up having to shut that because I was just constantly creating, right? Second journey of product creation was printables. Yes, I was an Etsy seller, and yes, I sold a couple, and I actually did okay. This was actually my best business. I used Facebook ads and blew up with a grief companion journal that I created, and then I went down relationships and conflicts and did a journal on that, and I got lovely feedback, workbook, and I got lovely feedback. I was getting emails from people saying how great they were, that they were using them for their clients. I was selling licenses so that people could use them, reprint them, and it was working. It was actually working. I couldn't believe it. I think I made like 5 to nearly 10 grand in 1 month, right? Amazing. Great. Then what happened was I needed more products, right? So the ads stopped working because the offer was getting old and Facebook started upping their ad prices. So that was the first challenge I had. Then I was like, okay, so I need more products. Right. So then I realized that it took me a month to create a workbook. So I couldn't actually churn out a lot of products to keep offering new offers, right? To keep giving new offers. Lesson number 2. Then I realized, okay, I really have to push this consistently. And then I actually had a conversation with a coach who was like, I don't think people would even be using them. So you're spending all this time creating something that people probably aren't using. And again, months, right? It would take me a month to get a printable out. That's how dedicated I was. And then the ads weren't working and I started to lose money. And then I realized again that I put myself in the middle of the business by creating a content creation business. Essentially, that's what it was, because I would always have to be producing products. So I felt like for this one, it was like a one-time offer, right? It was a one-time payment. So the first one I tried, the subscription model, yeah, it was reoccurring, but I still had to keep creating content. The second one I created was, okay, I've got a one-time product, but it took me a long time to produce. And I think I was selling them for like $12, $13 each. I've got to sell a lot to make a bit of money there, right? So I was like, okay, it's taking me too long to create and I'm not charging enough. I wasn't making any more money on ads. I was actually losing money now. It was costing me money. So I stopped that. Then I turned that into an app and I was like, okay, what about if I add videos to these worksheets and make it an app? Great. Still creating content. No reoccurring subscription. So then I moved to my next idea. I was like, okay, I need to do the reoccurring subscription again because, it needs that, to me, is a great model. So use that. And then I created a mental health app. And I was like, perfect. I talk about mental health. I build a mental health app. This is my absolute jam. And it was based on this idea that I loved. It was based on, okay, what if we had something that we could listen to when we were having a meltdown, right? Like a short mini audio session. And by the way, I still think this is a great idea. I just completely botched it. Let me tell you how. Right. So I built an app. Yes, I did. And it took me a whole year. Yes, it did. And I spent 10 grand on it. Yes, I did. And then I realized at the end, when I'd had multiple meltdowns, that I had once again built a content creation machine dependent on me because I was creating this audio consistently, right? I was creating scripts, writing them, editing them in Claude or ChatGPT, then putting them into Wondercraft. And the thing with mental health is it's a very serious, obviously, like it's an extremely serious topic, one that I would only want to write for because I knew and I'd done so much years of reading, right? To the point where my therapist said it was like talking to a therapist when she spoke to me because I'd done that much reading. So I was very aware of what I was putting into the content. content. The product was great. I had no doubt about that. But the way I built the business was not. It was dependent again on me creating. And also I think the subscription off the top of my head was about $10 a month in USD. Again, I would need to have a lot of users and I would need to be creating content consistently. When I got the product tested with family and friends, one of my cousins actually said to me, okay, so what do I do when the content's finished? So obviously I had hit the same point. I was still creating content. Yes, I'd gone back to the subscription model. I thought the app was a great idea because, people are always on their phones and it's just a natural progression. Then didn't realize that Apple takes 30% of each membership. I can't remember what Google Play Store was, but nonetheless, now I've just lost 30% of that $10. Right? So now what I've done is I've just created another unsustainable beast for myself because it's relying on me, relying on my content, and I'm not charging much. So I've literally put all of the problems I had into a 1-year creation of an app. But hey, I'm not going to get down on myself because, and something I want you to remember too, is we have probably learned huge amounts of skills. I know I learned so much about tech, software, apps, building that I am now using. But also it was because of all these journeys that I then got to my last product, which I hope will be the one that's but again, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep trying. We're going to keep figuring it out. Then I got into software development, guys, SaaS. I feel so fancy saying that, but I have absolutely no tech background. I used Replit. And what happened was when I was building out this app and I finally was ready, the last app I built, I was like, okay, now I've got to market it, right? Easy. I'm going to start posting. Then realized that it's really hard to be consistent with posting because you've got notes. You keep your ideas on your notes, right? On your notes app or wherever. And then you've got Google Docs with planned out posts maybe, or you use Notion. I tried to use Notion. I was really overwhelmed. So then I was like, okay, surely there's something that can help me create a bit of software for this. So I found Replit and built out software that helps me to plan my content, which is actually what I used right now to build this content. So I was really excited with that, created it, realized there's a difference between building a business and building a system and building a product. And these are all things I needed to factor in. So what I've done here is I'm going to create a little table for you to see. Now, let's get to the point of this. The very, very big question that is so important to help us determine the products that we should try and create in the business that we want to create. So the question is, what type of product actually aligns with where I am in my life right now? And the reason that I say this is because one of the biggest struggles that I had with the app and the rest of the work was that I started all of this after I had my first child and realized that a lot of this mental health work was actually adding to the stress and my ability to parent because it was taking from the same area of my life, that emotional health, emotional well-being, emotional regulation. I was creating worksheets to regulate, creating content to regulate, and also trying to regulate a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, which, as you know, can be challenging. And when I moved into this idea, this systems idea, content flow, the reason that I recognize that this question made such a big difference was because this business idea, this product idea reflects where I am right now. It's systems, it's getting organized, it's building something using software. It's very different. It's a more structured approach. And I'm obviously not delving into that emotional regulation and mental health content in the same way that I was. So I really realized, hey, in this part of my life right now, on the emotional part, I'm capped. But marketing, business, thinking all about all of that systems, creation, I can totally do that. It actually takes work but fills me up at the same time. And that was really about where I was at right now. That was based on the capacity I had in the life stage that I'm in with kids. So I feel like if you're going to create a product and there's something that you want to build for yourself, that is a really important question to ask, because very rarely, and I want to say especially as females, do we look at our capacity at the life stage that we're at. And the thing is, the capacity that we have is not a limitation. It's just information. And that's something that I'm realizing too. Because I have kids, it doesn't mean that I can't do something. It just has really shifted the way I can do things and what I choose to do, dependent on, again, what it takes from me, what it brings, what it gives to me as well. And this is something that has been game changing in the way that I approach building a business, building a product, knowing what to create, because it's really a reflection of also what I'm able to offer and give. And no one wants to walk around having 24/7 meltdowns, right? That was me, and it was really impacting my relationships, my parenting. And honestly, I have never felt happier, even to the point where my husband has said, you look happier. So it's about recognizing our capacity, guys, and not seeing it as a problem or a limitation, but just as where we're at. And then being flexible about what we can do to create something within that capacity. So I'm going to show a little table up here, right? And this is just something I created to show, ideas of the different products and then the capacities that those products take. right? And I thought this was really cool. This is a cool idea because there's different types of capacities, right? We have financial capacity, time, emotional capacity. So for example, and I'll be really honest here, my financial resources look a lot different to the earlier in my life because my husband has his own business and we're at a different financial point, right? So it was like flipped. Earlier on, when I did podcasting and talking, I didn't have kids. So the emotional capacity was a lot higher. I had a lot more to offer. Now it's flipped. Now I feel like my emotional capacity is a bit lower, whereas my financial capacity is a bit higher. So I've got the time to invest in YouTube and invest in resources that I need to for that. And it looks a bit different. I can afford to do childcare and work and figure that out. That's something about the reflection of where I'm at. So that's, again, something really important because I'm not saying that printables is a wrong idea, right? I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that the model I did was wrong. I just recognize that it didn't suit the capacities that I had. So on this worksheet too, you'll see the different types of capacities, the requirement for different types of businesses. And this is by all means just something to consider in the decision that you're making when it comes to building something, creating a product, doing something for yourself, building that side hustle that you want for yourself. So I hope that you find it helpful because it is a different way to look at making business choices. I feel like a lot of people are like, just do what's popular. Great. Printables sell really well. I crashed and burned. It wasn't going to work for me, right? Again, the emotional capacity was not there and also the time. That's another resource I had very short amount of. And the thing about building systems, for example, I can do that on the couch. It doesn't take the same emotional energy. So I can build that and do that after hours. And that I've found is another thing. I couldn't work after hours on my app because it was more emotional energy that at the end of the day, if you have kids, is very low. Let's be honest, right? But I can build software because it involves a different part of my brain, right? So something to consider, guys, if you're wanting to build a product, create something for yourself, look at this little chart, have a think about what your capacities are at right now, where your life is at, and what product fits into that and what that looks like for you. Okay, now I'm actually going to leave you with like a little to-do task today. So maybe you have a list of ideas, maybe you have one idea, maybe you're considering the ideas that you've already done, but grab out that list, write them down, create the list, do whatever you need to do, and then use this little question sheet PDF that we've created to actually look at what you've learned about your capacities based on the different products you've created. Like I said, I realized the different ones, what they were taking, where they were giving, where I didn't have more to give, and see, what you feel you can learn about that as well. And then look at what actually fits your life right now. So let's have a little play around with that and comment below if there's some realizations you've had around that, things that you've learned about, the same type of thing, or maybe some products you think you might want to consider when you look at it from this point of view. So I hope that you found this video helpful and I'll catch you in the next one.